So if you've watched a few of my videos, you'll notice my views are unusual. So before we begin, I just wanted to clear the air. Though I'm dealing with a serious issue in this presentation, I at times use humor, not to mock anybody, but to try to wake people up to the jokes being played on them in a world that's very different from what we were told. So as I wake up and see things from a different perspective, I see jokes embedded everywhere, as well as something I would call truth beauty, like Shelley's Grecian urn. There's a truth beauty and an awe to have, but there's also someone having a laugh at your expense. This content is for education and facilitating self-empowerment. However, this platform exists to cultivate an addictive and abusive codependent relationship with a vapid materialist pop culture, while data scraping algorithms sync your personal metadata onto pattern maps used to anticipate, then invert emergent trends in our collective evolution of consciousness in an effort to compromise our ongoing mass awakening. Hello folks, and welcome back to Symbols, Patterns, and Gnosis. As always, this is Jason Bickford. Here on my channel, I like to produce media in which I make esoteric connections and see patterns, and I hope not to let you down today. We're going to look at entity possession, not just the phenomenon, but a book of that name by Dr. Samuel Sagan. And I'm going to take a look at interviews with the entities and suggest that this is symptomatic of a spirit of the age that I've referred to as the meme think infection, and that historically we sometimes call the hungry ghost. So we have cultures all over the world talking about disembodied spirits, and I believe there's something to it. So let's talk about Bhutaism, and Buddhism, and the overall collective emergent kind of pagan quality to contemporary pop culture and the cultural climate change. So politics, the arts and entertainment, political discourse amongst the wind tunnel of the vapid wasteland on anti-social media and the like represent this kind of collective spiritual possession or influence. Hollywood tends to make us think of spiritual possession and demonic influence to look like something like a drunken seizure, but it's more subtle than that, and it's been going on for a while, and something I called the meme think infection. So Bhutaism, the Bhuta or Bhuta, known as in the modern Indian language, I think they would call it Butte or boot right now. So I'm reminded of Orwell's image of the future of humanity as a boot standing on the human face. So that does seem to me to be a little bit of a embedded disclosure.
You live longer, like everything works in your favor. Your immune system functions better, and you're oriented at least to some degree towards the medium and long-term future.
We'll be talking about what I would call meme think detoxing, clearing yourself of negative energies and entity possession, according to Dr. Samuel Sagan. So we're going to take a look at material directly quoted from case studies from Dr. Samuel's 1997 publication, Entity Possession, subtitle, Freeing the Energy Body of Negative Influences. I think someone like me who has had a pretty up-close look at the corruption and dark side of the New Age community, when I hear some of this language, it makes me think of the perennially banal and predictable New Age movement. Yeah, so there's that, but that's all right. Lots of valuable information, and that's maybe that's just me. I've got some negative priming from the New Age community, so some of these concepts might be off the table for mainstream Christians. They don't like to talk about this. Although, I mean, the Jewish and Christian scriptures are replete with people having problems with entities, and Christ has to even give 70 or 72 disciples abilities to deal with demons and speak the good news and heal the sick. And he sends them out in different directions in pairs of two to do their thing. So there's that. That's something that was going on. Christ speaks of the reincarnation of Elijah, and so reincarnation and demonic entities getting removed from bodies, this is something that all these cultures have dealt with. And that's why I'm going to put in some of my 2 cents. I like to do that syncretic, recombinatorial kind of puzzle piecing. So I'm going to add my observations about commonalities that we see in today's cultural climate change as evidence of this parasitic meme-think intelligence growing in influence, in part thanks to the unprecedented proliferation of banal, toxic, rhetorical waste on the internet, and abuses to the living planet Earth itself. And if you recall the Gnostic Sunday School number 3, the carbon beast life forms, you'll see that we and this Earth are intrinsically bound together, and what we do to the Earth we'll do to ourselves. So if you want to frack down into the Earth to get some gas, and you want to dig down a deep hole to pull up some of that bile, then people are going to be sticking spikes in their arms and catching the vapors. And the language we use to describe the damage to the Earth is not entirely unlike the language that we would use to describe what's happening to us, individually and collectively. And that's because we're all in this together with disembodied spirits, and they're asking to be heard. I want to allow them to have a voice, but also I want you to know that these things are overwhelmingly dangerous. Let's get to know the author and facilitator of these sessions. This is Dr. Samuel Sagan. That's an interesting name. Samael is the blind god, and Sagan is Naga's backwards. He studied medicine at Paris 5 Faculty of Medicine and Sanskrit at Saint-Cyr Sorbonne Nouvelle University. He was awarded a silver medal for his medical thesis and was elected a member of the French Society of the History of Medicine. After 30 years of this work, Dr. Sagan passed away peacefully in meditation on September 13th, 2016. So there goes Mr. Sagan back into the non-physical realm. Things can come and go out of that non-physical realm at times, it seems. Interesting. I've been suggesting for a while we are not alone, more so than I realized. For centuries, Eastern traditions have taken the subject of entity possession quite seriously. Ayurveda, the traditional medicine of India, recognizes bhutas, or entities, and their influence on mental and physical well-being, as well as the ways they can be evicted from the individual. Now, in a work that is unique in Western literature, Dr. Samuel Sagan examines the problems of these incorporeal beings that attach themselves to human beings as parasites, causing various emotional, mental, and physical problems. So we tend to think of The Exorcist and that little girl going nuts and levitating on the bed and puking out pea soup, but it's far more like PMS and bipolar, as well as personality shifts, emergent self-centeredness and narcissism, and a breakdown of empathy and communication. In a landmark study that presents sound analysis and treatment of this phenomena, entity possession demystifies a topic that has long been overdramatized by the folklore surrounding possession and exorcism. And that's something we see all over the earth, in the Shinto of Japan up to the Huldufolk of Iceland and the fairy of the Celtic and in between. We hear of the hungry ghost, and using actual case studies of the hungry ghost phenomenon, Dr. Sagan analyzes their mechanisms and motivations, presenting the facts of entity possession and including many tips on how to dislodge these parasites from the individuals whose lives are thrown out of balance by their presence. So we're going to take a look at some interviews with the Dark Passenger.
Jesus, man, could you change the channel?
Fuck you, man. If you don't like my fucking music, get your own fucking cab.
These case studies are interesting. I'm not going to go through all of them in the book. I'm going to highlight a few and show you what I see. We've heard of the monkey on your back or the weight on your chest or a burden in your heart. In most cases, clients can feel a presence attached to them. In other words, they perceive an autonomous consciousness added to their own and separate from it and operating within or around them. Most clients are unaware of that presence before undergoing the exploration process. However, once identified, the presence often feels familiar to them. They suddenly realize that they already knew about it subconsciously. A certain percentage of clients were consciously aware of the presence long before undergoing the process, but were unable to talk about it with friends or therapists for fear of being regarded as insane, or simply because the experience was peculiar and did not fit in with any of their usual mental concepts. In almost all cases, clients perceive the presence as separate from themselves. They can feel their own presence plus another presence, one that is attached to them, but distinct from them. The monkey on their back, the burden on your chest or in your heart, they describe it in the following terms: something foreign. It doesn't belong to me. It isn't part of me. It is a parasite. It hasn't always been with me. It got attached to me at a particular moment in time, even if that time was long ago. It feels wrong. It shouldn't be there. Our first case study is with a 32-year-old secretary, female. Facilitator asks, "What can you perceive?" It's red. It's angry. It's as if I've been taken over. It's something that I've been fighting all my life. It inspires hatred. It is madness, but not madness from the body. Maybe it's my dark side, but it does not feel like me. When did you feel it for the first time? Now, actually, but I've always known it was there. The client is crying with her fists clenched. I feel that it could make me kill, and I mean it. It fills up my body with hatred. It is sheer destruction. Clients describe these foreign presences as having their own desires, emotions, and thoughts. The presences are perceived as having an existence of their own, even though it interferes in many ways with the client's psychology and vital functions. Separate, not equal, seldom aligned. Let's take a look at another case study, and this is a 43-year-old stewardess female. What does it look like? It's got legs with suckers at the end. The two front legs are around my neck. It's big. It covers my back, down the middle of my back. It's gray. It feeds off the base of my brain. It takes life energy, but not all the time, just sometimes, when it's hungry. When it sucks my energy, I get confused. It gives me thoughts that go round and round, thoughts that do not make any sense. It bites my head, and my head hurts. Does it feel like a part of yourself or like something foreign? No, it's foreign. In most cases, clients describe these forms as being inside the body or directly attached to it, stuck to the back, for instance, or sitting on top of the head. It follows that the shape presence is located in one particular part of the body. The location most often identified by both men and women is the left iliac or lower abdominal area. Women also frequently identify areas in and around the vagina, uterus, and ovaries. Entities can be located in virtually any body part, but the limbs come up quite rarely compared to the trunk and the head. An important finding is that entities do not seem to move around much in the client's body. Sometimes clients relate that the thing moves within its own space slightly, but it is unusual for it to change body area altogether. Entities appear very fixed and stubborn, unwilling to let go of their position, and unresponsive to any attempt to dislodge them. So we're told Buddhists are on the eightfold path. And I think of bhuta and bhuta, the walking or the wandering Jew or the wandering vagabond, the ascetic, the person that wants to be a victim. Gautama Buddha was a rich kid who went off and started a religion. He reminds me of Aleister Crowley, whose father was MI6, I believe, or British military intelligence, and Jim Morrison, the Lizard King, the shapeshifter Naga, who got all the girls asking for him to whip it out on stage. He's the Lizard King who can do everything, and his father was a Navy admiral who was directly involved in the Gulf of Tonkin incident that allowed for the pretense to engage in the Vietnam War and go stir up more Nagas in the jungle and stir up the swamp. So I have got more to say about this, but I think the denial of the self, the emptying of the vessel, is an affront to God, and you're a divine sovereign individual. When you shave your head, put on the same robes, all chant the same sounds, and walk around the same path and do the same thing, and deny your inherent individuality, well then what happens is...
Since the death of God, there's been a vacancy open. You could fill that void. Here's how.
I think maybe there's a Naga living here.
You kind of say no thanks to God's gift of your individual self. Now you might say you have some sort of transcendent moment becoming part of the group and whatnot, but I think it's a lot cooler to have a one-on-one individual conversation with God where God knows your name, right? Sometimes you want to go where everybody knows your name. Doom, doom, doom.
Jason figured it out? Jason? This is a real low point. Yeah, this one hurts. Ow.
I'm going to suggest that Samuel Sagan, whose last name backwards is Nagas, and his first name is Samuel, which reminds me of Samael, the blind god. He's trying to get you to open your third eye. I think that third eye that he wants to open is the pink triangle of the root chakra, if you know what I mean. I think that the New Age movement and the Eastern push with the eat, pray, love phenomenon is a trick to get Western women into compromising positions for the watchers and the spirits.
Hey everyone! Welcome back to my 30-day beach yoga challenge focused on the chakras. We are back with the sacral chakra, my favorite. It's all about honoring your sensuality, your joy, your ability to go with the flow, your self-worth, and creativity.
So it's a peep show, and it's also a way to get in your vessel. Contemplative arts that are asking you to deny yourself and shave your head and put on the orange robe or whatever, they're asking to get up in you. Now think about the pronunciation of bhuta and then butt and boot. So it's a boot in your ass. Someone wants to put a bhuta in your ass. Well, the bhuta is the spirit. So this would be like a...
It's all about honoring your sensuality, your joy, your ability to go with the flow, your self-worth, and creativity. So, go ahead and begin in a comfortable seat.
Well, the bhuta is the spirit. So this would be like a parallel universe or spiritual entity that wants to get into your body. Now, a lot of entities might want to interact with people for different reasons. It seems like they're parasites that feed on strong emotions and then kind of want to be left alone once they get into someone who gets stuck in a routine. And so the meme think detoxing involves disabusing yourself of the toxic manufactured polarization and narcissism of the age. The spirit of the age is embedded in the behavior of the masses. So what the normies are doing is what the spirit of the age is up to. But it's also at work in cultural elite and movers and shakers, as well as in the arts, as I've proven beyond a shadow of a doubt has been going on for centuries. And so the Nagas that are putting Naga symbolism into the Goya painting of the milkmaid of Bordeaux are embedding a joke about the milkmaid churning away at the butter.
La première chose qui va se former, c'est une sorte de crème chantilly, hein, donc la crème fraîche. Juste pour vous montrer un petit peu comment on fait ici. Voilà, donc là, ça va être... Voilà, donc là, je vais juste racler.
Doesn't take much of a puerile imagination to obviously be reminded, especially if she has that bodice on and she's got the milkmaid bodice on and she's doing that. So Goya's having a laugh. When we look at that painting, we can see the milkmaid of Bordeaux is contemplating her opposite. She wants what she can't have. You can see that dark African woman with the thick features in the face embedded right there in the background of the painting. And then we have the Nagas and the master craftsman embedding the spirit of the age, pagan spirits that are embedded in the consciousness of people that give themselves away to something, which is exactly what Francisco Goya did in the Knights of Malta and with Freemasonry. And he produced a lot of work with disgusting graphic violence and witchcraft, which he found very fascinating. So it looks like he got himself involved in something he maybe didn't quite understand what he was being put up to. And the idle hands do the devil's business. And I think what we have here is idle souls going into the East to eat, pray, love, but this is a culture that's more about narcissism. So we have the yoga girl embedded in the Goya, that we stir up the swamp and then the yoga girl gets sick of the toxic community, withdraws within herself, and then she becomes this solipsistic, inward-seeking person. And it happens to men too, so I don't want to make fun of just the yoga girls. I'm just pointing out the yoga symbolism in the name Goya, and then in yoga and a goy itself, spelt backwards, has the joke about the intellectual elite having a laugh on the people who are here to serve them like slaves. So it seems like there's this idea that there's the gentle and then the not so gentle people. And there is this idea also that there was some fallen angels whose punishment is to watch without being able to interfere as their children and progeny that they shouldn't have created exist in this realm and destroy each other. So we have spiritual war, and yoga girls and the Alterna bros are getting recruited, and one of the best ways to get in their vessel is psychedelic drug use. These people are either rolling with the Holy Spirit or they're demonically giving themselves away to meme-think infections. So I want you to consider that, and then consider this idea that Mr. Sagan is up to no good, whether he knows it or not. And I think these girls, well, there's an interesting phenomenon he mentions in the beginning of the book, in which he says that he never tells anybody they have an entity. He says he can clear entities, and then the clients are overwhelmingly women, sometimes men, but mostly women. They come in and say they think they have an entity. Then he interviews them, and he asks them what it's like, what's its shape, where is it? And a lot of them point towards their, let's say, bathing suit area. There's a lot of sexual innuendos, as well as cravings for chocolate and masturbation, and casual sex over making love. So it seems to be more of the wham bam thank you ma'am type instead of the getting to know you. So we have symbolism for the Tasmanian devil popping up in one of these girls' interviews. And it's interesting because I actually found that in the overlays of the Dürer crucifix, which embeds the spirit of the age I'm talking about, coming about on the earth and manifesting as obvious in 2021. And then we had the worldwide epidemic with bad spirit and bad breath showing us exactly what we were doing. And the upside down world is here as teenagers are announcing that they're now the opposite gender than they thought they were. So yeah, welcome to the inverted world.
Elevation. Isn't that the whack job that lives in the basement?
Hey, Vickford, you want to hang with us, man? Away from the ledge there?
No can do, pal. Not in conversational mode. I thought I was, but fuck it.
What's he saying? What you talking about, Vic?
The problem. I thought I could forget about it for a while and mingle, toga, whatever, but no. No dice. I'm low blocked.
Bro, what's up with the term paper? All right, you're making us all look bad.
It's not for class. Problem is just a cool idea.
And the next thing I know, I'm here. But where is here? Tasmania? Where in Tasmania is Tasmania? Octopuses, penguins, people, warthogs, yaks, newts, walrus, gnu's, wildebeestes. What? No rabbits? Especially rabbits.
Hey, Doc? Doc? Hello, anybody home? Einstein, come here, boy. What's going on? Oh, God. Oh, Jesus. That is disgusting.
Case study. 20-year-old student, female. What are you feeling? I can feel movement like an animal fidgeting inside my solar plexus. What kind of an animal? A small red ape. He is inside. What is it doing there? Jumping, moving. What does it want? He is agitated. He wants to get out. Has it been there for a long time? Oh yes, I'm sure he was already there when I was a child. There is a feeling of constriction. It's very small, 2 or 3 inches. What kind of food does the monkey like you to have? He gets me agitated, so I take sedatives. He wants to get out. He likes it when I take sedatives and all sorts of drugs. Have you ever seen that monkey before? No, though the feeling is familiar. He likes coffee. I drink a lot of coffee, extreme runabout. He likes to go to coffee shops with lots of people and lots of music and then go somewhere else and then somewhere else. He does not feel dangerous. He feels very tricky. At home, he makes me drink a lot of coffee, listen to loud music, and invite a lot of people over. If I can't do that, he makes me panic. He hates it when I meditate. If I meditate, he turns into a white spiral and spins. Does the monkey talk? No, but I do. He makes me talk all day and be restless during my work. He likes coffee a lot. When I met my first boyfriend, I remember this new feeling, spinning, restlessness, and agitated, uncomfortable, leading to panic. My father had not been dead long. It couldn't have been there before because I was too serious. There was no opportunity. After my father died, I suddenly changed. Was it happy when you had a boyfriend? He's never happy, always agitated. He's really in a bubble, hitting the edges. He wants to get out, or wants attention, very naughty. When I started taking drugs, cocaine, he got much worse. He gets a lot wider and bigger and out of control, indicating the whole of her chest and abdomen with her hands. Could there be a part of yourself that gets some benefit out of the presence of the monkey? The social part. He plays on my darker part and my frivolous parts. I get a lot done with him. I can run a lot and see a lot of people and stay awake at night. I can't read, but I can talk. I can start to talk to a stranger sitting at the next table. Part of me likes that, but sometimes he is so irresistible that I have to run away from lectures at university and light a cigarette. He loves King's Cross, Sydney's red light district. He eats that energy when I walk and talk to people. How does it react when you have sex? He withdraws. If I don't know the person, or if there is more than one person or a lot of alcohol, then he likes it. But anyone that I care for, he makes me panic and stops me from making love. I can see when it came in. It was a time, a sad time, long ago. My father died when I was at school. I was running, and I felt him die. I was 13. My brother and my uncle picked me up from school, and the ape jumped inside in the panic that followed. My father used to take a lot of drugs. Now the ape is extremely angry. He hates you. He wants to hit your hand. He makes the whole of me tighten and try to push you away. He does not want me to be here. Each time he tries to convince me not to come here for the session.
Help them to move on. Help them to have some future. Help them to live long.
And it took almost a year for me to realize that this movement is much more than a racial and social justice movement. At its core, it's a spiritual movement.
I just never stopped wanting to make revolution, but I was in possession of explosives and weapons when I was arrested in 1984.
It's a very important practice. Hashtags for us are way more than a hashtag. It is literally almost resurrecting a spirit so they can work through us to get the work that we need to get done.
The Native Tongues was a hip-hop collective that emerged in the early 90s. It included people like Q-Tip and Phife Dawg of Tribe Called Quest, members of De La Soul, as well as Africa Baby Bam and some of the other Jungle Brothers. So in '88, the Jungle Brothers released Straight Out the Jungle. That was acid jazz and hip-hop jazz fusion in its earliest stages before Diggable Planets did it best. So Africa Baby Bam of the Jungle Brothers is openly gay, kind of crazy, into Satanism and paganism, and he says here in this interview with a Western Mass local paper that the foundations of hip-hop and the crews that he was with were entirely based on pagan shit. And he lives in Holyoke, Massachusetts, right next to Westfield now. He moved to Holyoke. Inspired by Africa Bambaataa of the Universal Zulu Nation. Now, this is where things get interesting. Pagan shit, Zulu Nation, Satanism. Let's go over to Africa Bambaataa and Zulu Nation. A couple years ago, rocked with Scandal, KRS-One in a scarf. I still see you there, bro. Touching them kids. Bam was like your uncle who paid your way through college, but, yeah. So we have a dark figure at the center of hip-hop seducing the innocent. Kind of reminds me of the Me Too movement, which was started by Africa Bambaataa, a.k.a. KRS-One. Of course, he was wearing his Tarana Burke mask.
With the growing Me Too movement, hundreds marching down Hollywood Boulevard on Sunday, sending a message days after 5 women came forward with sexual misconduct allegations against comedian Louis C.K. ABC's Louis
You
Davis.
told me, man. You needed me, man. Who the teacher, me, man? Who gon' lead you, me, man? Who gon' free you, me, man? Well, not mostly me, man. But come up close to me, man. Make a toast with me, man. I'm not starving me, man. I be feeding me, man. You won't be seeing me, man. Cause I be booking me, man. Them lights be cooking me, man. While people look at me, man, they sing the hooks with me, man. Yo, read this book with me, man. How these rappers / actors wanna fuck with me, man? When we be up inside the spot, they be ducking me, man. I be moving me, man. Showing and proving me, man. My wife is soothing me, man. Your life is new to me, man.
Hey, yo, what's going on?
The growing Me Too movement, hundreds marching down Hollywood Boulevard on Sunday, sending a message days after 5 women came forward with sexual misconduct allegations.
You see me, man? It don't take much to be me, man. I just stay extra focused on the G.O.D. and me, man. Not too many ahead of me, man. If rappers with television channels, I'll be C-SPAN. Believe me, man. Don't nobody sound like me, man. free, man. For that golden age hip hop, you know you gotta see me, man. From 1973, man, to 1993, man. If you unaware of them 20 years, you won't understand me, man. So here's the plan for you and me, man.
We begin with the growing Me Too movement. Hundreds marching down Hollywood Boulevard on Sunday, sending a message days after 5 women came forward with sexual misconduct allegations against
years, you already knew this about me, man. So you be you, man, and I'll be me, man. But remember, knowledge reigns supreme. Yep, that's me, man.
A morning was trying to find you. They're talking about big things, man. They want to invite you and everything. So I thought it was a spoof, you know. So I called these guys and they just said, man, we'd love to have you come on. And by the way, NBC's Today Show is going to be here, and they were supposed to link up with some type of satellite feed live, and that just blew me away because the Today Show, man, that's a hot show in the morning, you know, for me. And Matt Lauer, man, I mean,
we like Matt Lauer.
He brings the female out in me because that Matt Lauer, you know, Matt Lauer is hot. Matt Lauer is hot. You know, yeah, I didn't. I mean,
me too. Me too.
I mean,
me too.
No, you're offensive.
I'm offensive?
Yes.
What do you mean?
You're making jokes about rape, and that's offensive.
You don't like rape?
No.
You don't?
No.
That's really weird because...
Earlier this morning, NBC News announced that they have made the decision to terminate the employment of longtime Today Show host Matt Lauer.
Female out in me because that Matt Lauer, you know. Matt Lauer is hot. Matt Lauer is hot. You know, yeah.
Hey, how can people? Hey, how can people get a hold of you if they want to hire you or?
I have a friend of mine that's really handling all of these vehicles because now I'm the official voice of Kraft Macaroni and Cheese. And the commercial, my first commercial that I cut today will debut on the, I think it's called the Huddle for Hunger Bowl this Sunday when Nebraska meets Boston College.
All right.
So that when you hear the Kraft spot, that's my first spot. And I may get tearful, but yeah, that's my first thing.
The sacral chakra, my favorite. It's all about honoring your sensuality, your joy, your ability to go with the flow, your self-worth, and creativity. So, go ahead and begin in a comfortable seat.
So I have 2 separate videos planned for paganism in hip-hop and the New Age community and the crystal girls and the yoga girls. But I just want to speak briefly on both here, and the overlap is magical thinking and self-worship. We have a popular word in the New Age community called manifest, and traditionally this is a list of passengers on a ship. So we see girls wanting to make a list of things they want to manifest in the world. This is essentially giving Santa or Satan your Christmas list pretty much every day. You rub some crystals on your tits and you write to Santa, giving him your manifest list, and you want to see your name on the list. Or here's my list of stuff. So you came for the self-care, but you turned into a narcissistic witch. That happens a lot. Crystals and crack. They got these girls and the hood guys and the hip-hop, street hip-hop in particular, gangster rap selling crack. So you got crystal rocks or crack rocks. So you got into the game for the uplift or the come up, right? Busy Bee in the early days of like Jam Master Jay, it was like harmless braggadocio, but pretty soon it turned into I'm gonna kill you and we're keeping our communities down. Now the narcissistic New Age girls will get their fellow self-worshippers into debt with online retail sales of crystals and all types of gadgets and cosmetics, because ultimately the New Age doesn't peddle so much a spiritual path as often as it sells you a path into self-worship and solipsism. So you think you're going to become enlightened, but a lot of these people end up just looking for secrets and advancements, as well as you got sick people that want to cure cancer and people that are running away from aging that want to stay young forever and just monetize looking beautiful on the internet. There's a lot of vapid self-worship there. And you'll find that in hip-hop as well. I'm the shit, while they poison their community. So they are a piece of shit in their community.
Lay it again, Smith, and you're fired.
You know that everybody's calling you a loser?
You ever wonder at what point you gotta stop living up here and start living down here?
Look,
Hey, Riley. All right, come on, man. How you feel?
if you had one shot,
I'm saving up enough cash to get out of this place.
one opportunity,
I'm on my way. I'm taking you with me.
seize everything you ever wanted,
If something's gonna happen, it needs to happen now.
did you capture it?
It's my boy Bunny Rabbit. He's a genius.
Just let it slip.
What are you doing with your life that's so great?
Snap back to reality. Oh, there goes gravity. Oh, there goes rabbit. He choke. He's so mad, but he won't give up. Daddies, he know he won't.
So now you got, ever since Eminem, white kids out in the suburbs of a trashy city thinking they're going to make it in hip-hop by becoming, I don't know, wise-ass, snarky assholes and know-it-alls. I don't think that's a path to success. Neither is staying high all the time. Stay High 149. Voice of the ghetto. I'm going to do a video on Stay High 149. It's now infamous graffiti writer. Maybe for all the wrong reasons. He was an active heroin addict, known for reappropriating the icon from the television show The Saint, as you can see here. And he modified the character so that he's bent over with his hand on his hip, and then he's smoking a joint. And it says, stay high. And it reminds me of this famous picture of Chuck D and Flavor Flav. Gonna chuck D's in your mouth. So there's a lot of embedded homosexuality in hip-hop, and there's a lot of closeted homosexuals in hip-hop that have yet to come out, and several who have, like Africa Baby Bam and some others from the Jungle Brothers. They came out the jungle, and they had to go back somewhere else. They went to the Valley in western Massachusetts, a liberal area known for being tolerant to gay folk. It's interesting here, Baby Bam, Nathaniel Hall is his name. He's been producing mixed media art, including photo shoots of him in drag. So he'll dress up in drag and run around town in western Mass. And so that's curious. I'm thinking about Tarana Burke and Tyrannosaurus Rex lurking around town. That's the reptile brain, or the Slender Man, the Slim Shadim, is still lurking around town in certain parts and haunting places and creating meme-think infections that get in people's heads. And the monotonous, repetitive, daily manifesting and worshiping of the self in the New Age almost looks like, getting on the yoga mat. Kind of reminds me of the Muslims getting on their prayer mat, 5 times a day. You could worship yourself in this masturbatory ritual, like, hey, look at me, how enlightened I am. Now check out me in my bikini doing my yoga. Or, look how pretty I am. I did this because blankety blank. And they don't mention it's mostly genes. I'm just gorgeous because I'm so spiritually enlightened. So you see a lot of that in self-worship and narcissism, and its toxic masculine form in the gangster rap is pretty brutal. And there's behind it all a kind of spirit that hates women. It's like an incel spirit that wants humanity to destroy itself, and it gets into certain cliques like hip-hop heads and new age girls and guys, and turns them into self-worshipping narcissists or abusive assholes or useless cucks. And that's a thing that's happening. Thanks for coming out. I'll break down each of those topics a little bit more in detail in the future, but that's a big overview of the kind of paganism hidden in plain sight, encouraging narcissism, and it's on the rise. So I think the academic literature is going to map onto the spiritual phenomenons I'm talking about. So if this stuff is happening, I should be able to point you in the direction of where things are going. And I don't do that to make money or say, hey, look what I can do, but to help you make sense of the world so that the place is less strange. So, Purgatorio doesn't have to be Inferno. So, and Paradiso might just be a glass menagerie of the most perfect moment. And you might not want to stay there too long. That might be the new age, the glass menagerie. You might be better off just riding in the middle and trying to be careful which teams you join. So the hashtags, the monotonous beats and the repetitive lyrics, teaching you to hate somebody, worship yourself, but hate your culture, and then become, a superhero, basically. There's people think Wakanda is real, and that might be a symbol for the Watchers in the shadows. So in the jungle, hiding behind holograms, all black. Except for the white wolf, Bucky. He's got the golden arm, so. But other than that, yeah, that's the mythology for the age. You're magical princes who were entitled to the world, and everybody took everything from you. So the Japs are coming, the Jewish American princesses, and the short men with the Napoleon complexes. So that's kind of the rising spirit of the age embedded in the paganism of pop culture. So be on the lookout for that, and keep your kids away from that. Help them see how stupid it is, because they're going to get exposed to it. So just mock it and make fun of it, right? Eminem's a little bitch. These new rappers are all morons on drugs and gay cowboys. I don't know what the hell's going on, but all right. Thanks for coming out. Good night. God bless. Oh, I almost forgot. Just as Africa Baby Bam was in the Jungle Brothers and they come out the jungle, so did Black Lives Matter have some roots in West African paganism, as well as connections to radical lesbian terrorists who bombed the Capitol building in the 80s. And that was Susan Rosenberg. So you don't hear Black Lives Matter supporters really talk about that too much. But the radical lesbian group that bombed the U.S. Capitol, I'm sorry, it wasn't in the 80s, it was in the 1970s. That was called M19. If you flip that 9, it's MIB, the Men in Black, which is kind of the men in the shadows, or the men in the jungle, the men in the, behind the hidden place. And when you have the unveiling, you start seeing the people in the jungle coming out for who they are. And I don't mean black people as in people from Africa or a jungle, say in South America, South Americans. I'm not talking about ethnicities that come from jungle climates. I'm talking about the symbolism being you were dancing with Mr. Brownstone, i.e. you were worshiping the wrong object, or you had some bad information and now you're in the jungle. So we got some Guns N' Roses lyrics there. You've been dancing with Mr. Brownstone. You're in the jungle, baby. You're just a big baby. Anyway, at its core, it's a spiritual movement, says a Black Lives Matter co-founder. And even the names, you have Patrice Khan the Colors, and then Opal Tometi, who looks Jewish, has a Italian name, and a first name's a black stone, so that's that dark stone again, with the dark crystal. Again, this is the bad information. You can be a god on earth. Our culture is slowly becoming more and more narcissistic and self-worshipping. So when you point out plain sense things like Black Lives Matter has connection to lesbian terrorism, behave in ways that's very similar to the way in which they accuse protesters on January 6th of behaving. Imagine if the January 6th protesters bombed the Capitol instead of occupied it, right? That's the kind of thing that the liberal lesbian terrorists were doing in the 70s. So this is the upside down world we live in. We're worried about red hats occupying the White House when radical lesbians and angry black people and white cucks and white liberals across the country burned down billions of dollars of American cities in the name of George Floyd, who was embedded in Spike Lee's Do the Right Thing, which itself is a giant gaslight provocation in which Bed-Stuy was painted up in Dick Tracy colors like a comic strip, and the whole thing is theatrical. If you look at that Death of Radio Raheem again, you'll see jokes about grape drink and the gay community embedded in there. That's pretty funny. And that pizza parlor has something to do with some conspiracy theories that we can't really talk about because the algorithms don't like them. And I don't support that conspiracy theory, but I think the patterns of it map onto symptoms of the spirit of the age, and it's worth talking about, but we have a hard time talking about that. So maybe the conspiracy theory has got some bullshit to it, but it seems like there's some something going on at Sal's Pizzeria, and it's being used as a platform to stoke up spirits that then manifest through different cultural groups. So Black Lives Matter, the co-opted Tea Party got turned into this same thing. Maybe not what it looked like in Massachusetts, but by the time it got down to Texas and the Koch brothers mobiles, it looked like a proper shit show. So that's what happens to these collective groups. They get iconed and branded, right? So you might start off saying, fuck JB, but then you end up, let's go Brandon. And you're like, I signed up for something else, and now I don't even know what's going on. So there you have it. That's my extra bonus track. Typical of a hip-hop album. We got to throw some shout-outs at the end. So yeah, fallen angels, disembodied spirits, working through people. The founders of Black Lives Matter essentially said that's what they're doing. They're channeling their ancestors because they've got unfinished business. And that spirit is revenge, resentment. They cannot forgive. They cannot love. And even the shamans in Odu Ifa, they don't know how to control those libations and spirits. They're pouring liquor all over the place. You're supposed to put the spirit in you. They don't even know how to do alchemy properly. You put the alk in me. That's alchemy. All right, I'm almost done here. I gotta go. It's bursting too many new age bubbles here, but alchemy is imbibing spirits and then having a conversation with them. That's what that is. These people don't know what they're doing. What a bad spirit. Okay, I gotta go. Anyway, be careful out there when you cross the street of intersectionality, because you will get hit.
Say my name, no one is around you.
So, like when you're getting ready to go on stage and perform, does Sasha Fierce, when does she show up?
Usually when I hear the crowd, when I put on my stilettos, when like the moment right before when you're nervous and that other thing kind of takes over for you. Then Sasha Fierce appears, and my posture and the way I speak and everything is different.
But no, is it like a process that happens too? Like you were talking about the high heels, like once the lashes go on and the makeup and all that stuff.
It's kind of like when I do a movie, becoming the character. Once you put on the wig and once you put on the clothes, you walk different. It's kind of this character that I've created over the years.
And how is Sasha Fierce different than I am?
Well, I know, definitely wearing that bodysuit. I could never walk out here and do that.
Does Sasha Fierce ever go home? Like,
sometimes, but not often. Only on special occasions.
She ever show up? She shows up sometimes at the house.
But definitely when I'm nervous or whenever I have to perform, whenever I have to do choreography or something that's difficult, and it's no different from anyone else. I feel like we all kind of have that thing that takes over when it's...
Say my name, say my name.
We speak their names, we say her name, say their names, we do that all the time, that you kind of invoke that spirit, and then those spirits actually become present with you, right?